2026 Ford Ranger Super Duty. Have they just built the perfect ute for me? Or have they? Let's talk about it. Today I wanted to sit down with you guys real quick and let's talk about this new Ford Ranger Super Duty that is supposedly coming to our shores in 2026. Now, if it is actually what Ford is saying it's going to be, I'm pretty excited because it is a whole new platform. Yes, it still has the Ranger name behind it, but they're saying things like brand new chassis or beefed up chassis. They're saying things like bigger axles, bigger diffs. All of these new things that are coming out for this platform are sounding like they are going to be magnificent. And if it comes into fruition, then look, people might be buying these things like hotcakes from Macca's drive-through. Anyway, I think we need to chat about this because there's a lot to go through. And if numbers like 4.5 ton GVM and 4.5 ton tow and an 8 ton GCM are actually going to be in the paperwork that you get when you buy this, then this could definitely be a game changer. Well, what makes the new Ford Ranger Super Duty different from every other Aussie ute that you can buy right now off the showroom floor? The biggest thing, and I've said it already in the introduction, is our GVM and our GCM weights when it comes to this vehicle. And a big one for all those full-time tourers that want to be towing a caravan, your tow capacity as well. It's a Ranger, so what are we comparing this to? We're comparing a Ranger to a Hilux. We're going to compare the Ranger to the BT50. We're going to compare the Ranger to the Triton. That's what it is competing with right now in our Australian market. And that, from Ford, is going to be huge in these differences in numbers when it comes to comparing it to those vehicles. Let's talk a little bit about performance and the capability of this new ute. This is all just Brent's opinion, guys, so take it with a grain of salt as you would. Now, I had, if you want to go back to it, you can, a Ford Ranger with the V6 in it, I think a year or two ago. I can't remember when we got rid of it. My memory's terrible at the best of times. So it had a 3-litre V6 turbo diesel engine in it. And that is what Ford is stating about the new Super Duty as well. It says on the paperwork, 3-litre V6 engine. And it's the same one that was in my Ranger. Now, apparently, this new one can do 4.5 ton GVM, 4.5 ton tow. And is that realistic for that engine and gearbox setup, which it is the 10-speed box? They're talking about it's been tuned in a certain way. They've got better cooling. They've done all these upgrades to obviously ensure that the box can handle what you're going to be throwing at it when it comes to a GCM of 8 ton as well. And they've really aimed this vehicle at the commercial space as well. So it is going to be available in different variants. So you've got the single cab, you've got a dual cab chassis, and then you'll have a dual cab ute. Obviously that means with the tub on the rear of it. Now, when it comes to the enthusiast, the dual cab ute is probably going to be the more popular vehicle that is out there. And that's because of what we're using it for, which is mostly touring and towing recreational trailers behind them. So things like your boat and your vans. Now, is it going to stack up? Who knows? Does everybody in the internet think that they want to put in the comments below that the gearboxes and the engines blow up? Look, like I said at the start, we had one ourselves. We did some towing with our van with that particular vehicle. I thought it did really well. Did I think it needed some upgrades? Yes. Do I think that they've done the correct upgrades? I don't know. That's going to be up to interpretation once we get our hands on these vehicles. But let's see how it all pans out. Let's talk exterior and structural upgrades. Now look, to look at this thing, it still looks like a Ranger. It definitely has that same shape about it, the same feel, which I like. I don't think that the styling of the current generation Ranger is bad at all, but they've definitely done some upgrades though. They're talking about things like underbody protection. They've actually got a steel bumper on the front. It's not just plastic. So things like that, and integrating winches and stuff like that sounds like it's actually going to be a thing that you can do as well. Now let's talk about underneath the vehicle when it comes to things like axles and all of that. They've actually got 8 stud axles set up for front and rear. That's going to be very, very interesting. And I know a lot of you guys may have seen, if you've got a keen eye, how big that differential in the rear is looking underneath the Ranger. Have seen a couple of comments though, of course, that people are like, oh, look how low that diff hangs down. Look, the car's not here, so we can't actually state what we think about it or not, but it's sounding good. The chassis has been upgraded as well, so this thing is actually sounding very, very promising for what they are talking about. If it all comes out, I think it's going to be a good thing. All right, let's talk about the interior on the new Super Duty for a quick second. It looks like this is just basically next gen Ranger. However, there are a few small changes that I think are worth noting. There's this fan-dangled little setup that they've got in the ute that now is going to be showing you how much load you've actually got in the vehicle when you are loading it up. Apparently, it's going to be displayed on the head unit. How are they going to do this? There's a couple of different ways, but I think the generic way of doing it would be a leveling sensor. A lot of you guys may know that even in today's standard, you've got auto leveling headlights, and basically how they're doing that is with a little electronic sensor on your suspension at the rear. So when you load it, the headlights dip down, and when you unload it, the bum comes up. They can bring your headlights aligned again. So I think that'll kind of be how it works. How people utilize this and actually use it on a daily basis, I think will be abused because we're Australian and that's what we do. So, you know, old Bob and Jerry on the weekend trying to get the garden clippings down to the dump, and they've got way too much sitting in the back of their vehicle. Let's see how many lights come up on the dash when that happens. So that should be an interesting aspect. Ford has actually added a couple of things for commercial space as well. They've actually got some little adapters and mountings for things like iPads or laptops, which could be quite interesting to see how the aftermarket space utilizes that for recreational as well. So where does the Ranger Super Duty Ute fit in the Australian market? Let's talk about that real quick because it's a broad aspect. Like I said at the start, this is us comparing it to the typical Aussie Ute because I feel that's where Ford actually wants to put this vehicle. Now, once you start talking about GVMs of 4.5 ton though, you've really got to respect what the HD trucks in the American space are bringing into Australia as well. Is it going to be too big for those light vehicle space, and can we literally just wipe it out comparing it to the Hilux now? Or does Toyota need to bring their game up? Does Mazda need to bring their game up when it comes to this platform? Are they too small of a vehicle now, and should they come up to what Ford's doing? Is it actually going to get lost in the middle though? Do people actually want more out of their vehicle, and that's why the HD truck space is actually becoming more and more popular? Look, I believe that it's definitely going to fill a hole in the market when it comes to what this vehicle is capable of doing. However, being able to park the thing in the Woolies car park is definitely going to be a plus for the wife when she wants to go down there and pick up the groceries. So if you're kind of looking for a vehicle that, I'm not going to say can do it all, but I'm going to say can do it all, it feels like the Super Duty might be something that you would want to consider when you're looking into a vehicle that needs to be towing and heavy on a daily basis. Do I think this is a vehicle that you should buy if you tow your jet ski to the beach every weekend? No. That is not fit for purpose. I would not be recommending that. This is a I'm going to say it, this is a heavy duty vehicle. That's what it's built for. You can see that in the 8-stud axle setup that they're going to be offering. You can see that in obviously the beefed up chassis that they're going to be offering. I don't think this vehicle is suited for that particular person. However, I'm sure someone's going to buy it just because it's cool and they just want to be seen on the weekend when they go to the beach with the jet ski. But it's a mystery. It is a mystery. The vehicle's not going to be available until 2026. So are we putting the cart before the horse right now and talking about things that may not even matter? What changes are Ford going to bring? I mean, they kind of muffed up the F-150 when they brought that in, and the whole GCM issue. If you guys didn't know about that, Google it. That was definitely a mix-up by those guys. But I think, like I said, if this all comes and everything that they are saying on the paperwork is actually going to come out and you can buy this vehicle with an 8-ton GCM, the light vehicle space has just been changed. Ford has basically given the finger to everybody else in this category and said, keep up if you can. I reckon that a lot of people, not only the recreational space, but the commercial space, will be buying these vehicles. Now, let's talk really quickly though about what we do, the aftermarket space. I don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon when it comes to this vehicle. Do I think suspension is going to be something that still has to happen on these vehicles? Yes, because the way that we utilize our cars in Australia, we're just not happy with how the factories tend to do their suspension. Most of the time it is too soft. Most of the time it doesn't actually handle the corrugations and the type of stuff that we want to be putting our vehicles through. Not on a daily basis, but you guys know what I mean. You guys like to do these certain types of trips out west. You love going up north as well. So do I think factory suspension is going to handle it? Look, I think the Super Duty will definitely have a more beefed up variant when it comes to the suspension. They have to if they're going to be offering weight carrying capacities as they have. Do I think you guys are going to want more out of this vehicle when it comes to that? 100%. We love our remote res shockies and our adjustability as well. It's definitely a thing that we have come accustomed to. Things like bar work, trays, all your 12-volt stuff, guys, it's not going anywhere. We all still want to utilize it. We all still want our vehicles to operate a certain way. So I think all of those components, features, everything that you guys love about your recreational vehicles will transfer over to the Super Duty. Does that mean we're going to have to wait for it? Of course it is, because this is a totally brand new vehicle. That's going to mean R&D, development, all those types of things that a lot of our Aussie aftermarket manufacturers do every day of the week. And I think that you'll be very surprised with the componentry that does come out for these vehicles. So where does it fit? Too early to tell, I think, guys, but put in the comments below and let me know what your thoughts would be on how this new platform is going to fit into the Australian ute market. Well guys, that's enough about the new Ford Ranger Super Duty. If you liked the episode, make sure that you give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, subscribe to the channel. That way you can see my ugly face next week. Rightio, I'm gonna go work on some Land Cruisers. Bye.